This episode is brought to you by Zen Sammich podcast with our dear friend, Mark Reid.
So let me tell you about Zen Sammich. Zen Sammich is a podcast for the independent thinker and anyone who embraces life despite its absurdities. Former professor and attorney turned Japanese paper maker, Mark Reid, that's me, inspires mindfulness, humor, and a down-to-earth 21st century Zen lifestyle. Join him, me, as he talks with creative, inspiring, and influential people like Dana Sardano and Angela DiMarco there, amongst others. And as he shares his own research, sometimes I do little solos, observing the socially constructed mess of reality, sharing travel stories, hadn't done that in a while, and exploring what it means to be alive in a modern world. So yeah, I did just read that off a script, but still, sounds interesting. I'd want to listen to that. You can find Zen Sammich on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you've got anywhere you listen to podcasts. And you know, it's easy to find. I don't really have any competitors. There's no like Zen Hoagie or Zen Subroll. There's just one Zen Sammich, baby. So just Google it, and there I am.
We're shedding our masks and breaking down walls. Hell, we may even drop our drawers. That's right. We're going Commando with Angela and Dana. Hi, my name is Dana Sardano, and this is Angela DiMarco, and we are Going Commando. Going Commando is a little show that we put together because we understand the importance of being... We'll get to you, Mark Reid!
Settle down!
Settle down! We see the importance of being who you are and being true to that and bringing it to the world. And we like to do that. And hopefully we give you permission to do the same. Angela, everybody knows who you are. So we're going to move right to our impatient guest, Mr. Mark Reid.
He's ready to rip it all off.
He's already sans pants. But I just give me a moment to introduce you, Mark, because Angela and I both think so much of you. And what's really, really cool about the internet and is how you could develop friendships with people, never having been in the same room with them. And the moment we stumbled across Mark, we understood that he was super special, long time. Mark, it was a career lawyer. It was a college professor, first stint. Either way, professional guy, and decided to be true to himself and true to his soul's purpose, and do what he loves. Moved out to Japan, married a beautiful Japanese woman, moved out to Japan, lives out in the woods, makes tell me what it's called, Mark, the paper?
It's called washi.
The washi paper.
Washi, yeah. Washi, washi.
Yeah. And does his podcast, Zen Sammich. And I love it because I'm like, Sammy's and Sammich. And everything he does, I see all of his posts on social media, specifically LinkedIn, it's all about the art of Zen, the art of being just, again, like with everything Angela and I stand for, being true to who you are and being at peace with yourself and the world around you. And Mark, before I let you speak, I'm going to embarrass myself. You ready?
Sure. That's my favorite part already.
Gosanka, itarakia, arigato, gozaimasu.
Okay, I caught your last part. You're thanking me, but can you
being here?
repronounce?
I'm thanking you for being here.
Okay,
I'm thanking you for being here.
Okay. All right.
Try. I'm so proud of you.
All right. I'm proud of you too. That's wow, Joseph.
Oh my God, that's a balls of steel because I'm like, I learned a little bit of Polish phonetically, but I kept listening to it, and I'm like, welcome was much easier, but it was like welcome to a restaurant or a retail store, and I'm like, I think the connotations off, but it was so much easier. So I'm like writing it phonetically. And I'm like, arigato, gozaimasu. I don't know. So
here's what and this will be the end of our Japanese lesson for the day, and we can move on to the juicy stuff. On a podcast like this, you would say yoroshiku onegaishimasu. So I'll slow it down for you. Yoroshiku onegaishimasu.
Yoroshiku onegaishimasu.
Yeah. Onegaishimasu.
Yeah, we should have done this ahead of time. I would just bust it out with that.
We've already lost all your listeners. They're like, this is boring shit. I don't care about this Japanese stuff.
So I was so nervous about saying that I screwed up your whole introduction. I'm like, yeah, Mark's great. He was a lawyer.
Perfect.
He lives in the woods now. He makes paper at the end. And because I was in my head, I'm like, go Sanka. So
Well, now I sound like the Unabomber. He lives out in the woods and makes paper, and like he's writing his manifesto. And
Mark,
Yes.
welcome.
thank you. I feel welcome. I feel welcome already. I feel at home already.
We do absolutely love you, Mark, and we're so glad that you're here. And
I have to thank you, and I have to say, by the way, I'm already pleased that you pronounced Zen Sammich correctly because, so as you both know, I just did a TED Talk, and I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit. But the MC, well, there's dual MC. So I'm here in Japan, so some of the speakers are Japanese, speaking in Japanese. Some of the speakers are American. Well, they're foreigners speaking in English. Actually, I was the only American doing it. But there's two MCs, and it's a British guy and a Japanese woman. And the British guy was not. He was very hoity-toity British. Like it wasn't the hello governor. It wasn't like the real
the chimney sweep.
Yeah, it wasn't that guy. This was like
he was pinky up drinking tea.
Yes, this was like the Ray Fiennes, or the very elegant. And he backstage, he went to me beforehand with my bio, and he's like, "I'm sorry, Mark. Let me just clarify this one thing here. Is it Zen Sandwich and it's just misspelled here?" And I'm like, "No, I'm from Bama. It's Sammich." He's like, "I'm sorry, I'm just not getting it. Is it Zen Sandwich?" I'm like, "No, it's Zen Sammich." And he's like, so then later he's introducing, and Mark is the podcast host of Zen Sammich. It pained him. It pained him to say it in this kind of slangy American backwoods way. So
Crass.
Anyway. And I'm all like, it's a sandwich. It's a sandwich. I love it. I love it.
Like you guys nail it, right? So, perfect.
That's awesome. How did the TED Talk go? Like, how did you feel? This was like a bucket list thing for you.
It was indeed. In fact, part of the speech was about bucket lists, and part of the speech was about doing reverse bucket lists, like looking back at your life and what would be on your bucket list if you wrote it when you were 12 years old. You know, because it's easy to well, it's not easy, but we continuously write our bucket list, right? At 40, 50, like what do I have left on my bucket list? You know, I think it's worthwhile to go through the exercise of like, well, wait a second, what would have been on my bucket list when I was 12? You know, when you're 12, you're like, well, I just want to graduate high school, you know, I just want to, graduate college, something like that. And it's worthwhile to go back and look like, okay, well, what have I checked off my bucket list? You know, and then that gives you momentum to now look forward and do the things that you still want to do. Because you can look at like what it took to get the big things in your life that you have done, what it took to get those items accomplished. And, you know, during my talk, my take was it takes intuition and belief. And the intuition part is like when your gut tells you you've got to do something. Like, you know, my gut told me I got to go to Japan. Okay. Or I've got to go to law school and become a lawyer. You know, that was my gut saying, look, you've got to do that thing. Yeah. And then the belief part is belief in yourself that you can do it, you know? So you got to have both. Like I could have intuition that, you know, oh, Mark, you need to be an NBA basketball player. But I mean, the belief part's not there. Like I don't believe that's going to happen. Like I don't believe that I can make that happen. So, okay, that's off the list. But the things you have intuition that I should do this, and then the belief that you can, I'm capable of doing it, that those are the things you should go do.
Can I ask you a question?
Awesome. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Dave.
I'm sorry. I just want to question about what you're saying, because the intuition is the gut. But wouldn't you say that the belief is also connected to the intuition? Because I know that you wouldn't believe you'd be an NBA player because, you know, for the obvious reasons. No offense.
All right.
But like, no, you know what I mean? Like
you're too short. You're too fat.
You're short.
You suck. You know, but you're also like, there's an understanding like within of really how far you can go with things. Like there's certain things I know, again, I'll never be an astronaut, you know, but there's parts of there, but I do have things in my gut that I believe that I could be things that like are even beyond what other people might think. Like I know. Like, I know.
That was that was that was a line in my speech, is that so you should keep your ambitions reasonable, but you can do more than your perceived limitations.
Yeah,
I
100%.
think I can only go this far, but actually, well, whatever that line is, you can go further. I
Mm,
assure you, you can do more than you
Yeah,
think you can do.
right.
I love
Okay.
it.
And-
It's a really good segue into what we wanted to talk about today, just like a general topic. We're
okay.
kind of shooting,
I brought my own topics, by the way, if we get to them. But let's.
Do it.
It's your
Do
show.
it. You're
I guess we'll
game.
do what
love.
you.
Yeah,
Fine.
right. I guess we'll follow your script,
I
girls.
guess.
It's like, hey, thanks for having me over for dinner. I brought all the food in case your
Yeah.
cooking sucks.
Yeah.
Okay. So we are in season 5 on purpose. And we've been talking about kind of loosely the concepts in my book, Uniquely You, update number 52, The Birth of a Bright-Eyed Entrepreneur. And it's basically about like having an idea, feeling that gut intuition that I want to do something, having the belief that I could do it. And then what we want to talk about today are the catalysts that forced that change.
Okay.
So we like when I was starting my book, like the reason why I started on my mission, my initial catalyst was losing the baby. You taking notes?
Yes, I always do.
There will be a test.
Okay.
When I lost Joshua, I went on a spiritual journey, which led me to figure out what my purpose was. But there were catalysts that like kicked me in the pants to get the whole thing like started at certain points. And to me, my catalysts have been like you get the nudges, you get the intuition nudge, you get like the okay, I'll do the little baby steps, but I'm going to stay comfortable in the old hermit crab shell, as Dana likes to call it. And there's something that has to happen that forces you, like the shell has to break. The shell has to like no longer be present or something to really like if you're not listening to those nudges and following your purpose truly, or like you're not on the right timeline, you get there's something that happens, and it could be
Yes.
something traumatic, it could be something whatever. So you went from lawyer living in Alabama and then all over places to Japan, like two totally you had totally different things. So what would have been like what would you say was like your major catalyst for that major life transition?
Yeah, I would say there were several. There were sort of like
Yeah.
mini catalysts, that kind of
Mhm.
gradually led up to it. But when people ask me like why I left the law, I do identify like a single case, even though it couldn't have just been that one case. But there was like
Yeah.
one that was the straw that broke the camel's back,
Mhm.
so to speak. And I'll just summarize it quickly. At that time, I was working. I first practiced law in New York. I was an assistant district attorney, an ADA up there. And then I had relocated back to my home state of Alabama to a big firm in Birmingham. And I worked in securities law. So like stocks, mutual funds, but it was a big firm. So we represented the evil large corporations, Bank of America and Merrill Lynch, these kind of people. And there was a case where this little old lady, her husband had passed away, and she'd never worked a day in her life. I mean, she was already in her 70s or 80s or something, and she'd just been a housewife all her life. He left her the pension, the life insurance policy. She had about 400 grand to live the rest of her life off of, and she didn't know what to do. So she goes to her advisor at one of these big firms, and he said, "Oh yeah, give me your money. I'll invest it. You can live off the interest. It'll be fine." This is before 07, 08, the market crash.
Mhm.
And so I'll speed up. Long story short, the market did crash. She lost almost everything, and he kept persuading her to leave the money with him because he kept moving it around, trying to save it. But it doesn't hurt his paycheck because it's he's getting commissions every time he bounces it around, and she's just watching it go to nothing quickly. And even though she asked him to take it out, and he wouldn't, or well, he persuaded her to keep it
Yeah.
in. So anyway, I'm defending that guy. And and not just me, but like 10 other lawyers, because I work for a big firm. So there's like 10 of us on this one case. We're passing the case around, and she just got Joe Lawyer, who's never even had a securities case. He's an ambulance chaser, and all he knows how to do is file a lawsuit. And we are pros in this one practice area. So, we're just beating her up like, stocks are risky investments. She knew what she was getting into. She signed the prospectus, which says that she could lose some or all of her investment. And so, long story short, I like to sleep at night. And this case, I was like, you know what the can I swear on? I've heard you guys swear on this, right?
Oh, fuck
Yeah, what
yeah.
the fuck?
Yeah, okay. I was like, what the fuck am I doing? This is not how Mark spends the rest of his. I'm going to speak to myself. I'm going to refer to myself in the third person
Yeah.
from here on. Mark does not spend the rest of Mark's life this way. There's no way I'm living the next 40 years defending big corporations and beating up little old ladies who lost all their money in the stock market. That's just not happening. So that was it. And just coincidentally maybe it's the universe answering my manifestation call.
Oh, Jesus, shut up.
Well, maybe. At the same time, I'm rekindling things with my now wife. She's someone I had met in 04 and 05 when I was here in Tokyo, and we dated then, and we just kept in touch, and we were just rekindling our old conversations and relationship. She came to visit me in America, and I basically let her know, like, I'm done with the law one way or another. And then everything went well. She said, come visit me in Japan, and I did, and I refused to leave. I just wouldn't leave. She's like, okay, your visa's about up. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going anywhere. So here I am.
That's awesome.
I got to tell you, Mark, I'm not going to rehash my whole story, but I relate to you on the level of, like, when my educational career was coming to a close. I did the discipline, and I was so tired of the bullshit because I was in a private school, of the parents that had a lot of money, their kids got to do whatever they wanted, and then these other kids, it was very unfair, very inequitable, and I'm the one who's the law of the land. And the very, very end, my catalyst was these two kids came into my office, and I mouthed off to them. And I mouthed off to them knowing somewhere back
I can't
here.
imagine you.
Listen, let me tell you something. It was intentional though. I was very good at that. I was very good at doling discipline in a diplomatic, balanced way, being just scary enough, but just fair enough. Like, I was really, like, there was somebody in my office, like, that they're always like, oh my God, like, how do you do that? So that was like my thing. But I told these kids, kind of knowing that I would catch heat for it, told them to get their heads out of their asses. It's 15-year-old boys. I was like, and with their parents, their names are on the library and who's donating to what fund. And I'm like, you two, get your heads out of your asses. But it was that moment that I was like, what am I doing? I'm constantly fighting for these underdogs. And the big guy is walking all over everybody. And there's so much more to it. But in correspondence with that, like you said, when you were rekindling with your wife, correspondence with that, I had just got married to Rob, and I just figured out I could paint. So I have these other things, these carrots going, this is what it looks like to feel good. And you're dancing around in this bucket of shit with these idiots. So, to paraphrase.
Sure. And here's the thing about catalysts is I think, when I can look back, I feel like they're always actually around you and happening all the time. You have to be open to doing something about them. Like, there's opportunity, there's doors that open and then the door shuts because you didn't walk through it. So you kind of have to be like ready for it. But because there were other opportunities in my past that the door was open and I was like, nah, I'm good being a lawyer here or whatever. Yeah. And so
there's definitely a readiness that comes with it, because when I was doing the business, I was still working as a director of marketing at a manufacturing firm, like an in-house job, great hours, good pay, all that stuff, stability, great health insurance, all the things, right? All the things that made me say, I can't quit and start a business. Like, I can't do that. We're saving for a house. So we bought our house, and we put on, like, it was like the end of August, put our house, like, we went into contract. And then that September, we had two teen tragedies in my town. And the business that Dana and I were working on was finduniquelyu.com. And it was it's an online learning app, and it was supposed to bring people together. It's all positive and personal empowerment. And I was like, the world freaking needs this so much. And it was like the minute we closed on the house, 2 weeks later, I said to my husband, like, I gotta quit. Like, we got the mortgage. I was like, I can't not do that anymore. Like, it hurt to be at work because
Yeah.
nothing was bad there. Like there, I
Yeah.
didn't have that little old lady kind of thing. There was no, like, we were
Right.
selling stanchions. It was nothing like, it
Yeah.
wasn't anything like crazy, but I just couldn't physically do it anymore. You know what I mean? It
Sure.
was just too much. So
Yeah.
I went into a position of wanting to give back, and it was
Yeah.
just, there was no turning back from there.
But Mark, to what,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, to what you were saying, though, the signs are always there. They keep showing
Yeah.
up. Sometimes they get more and more intense. So for me, the signs were there probably about 3-4 years. And then the head
Right.
out of the ass thing was just like, okay, enough. Like, it's
Right.
time. You know?
Well, that is where I was going to go next. Is that, you can keep, if you're not open to that those catalysts that are there along the way, maybe eventually it's just going to get so big you can't ignore it anymore. You have to go through the door. The door the open door keeps getting in front of your face. You're like, oh, fuck, I guess I got to go through this.
Yeah. What do we call that? What do we call that, Angela?
What? Oh, twat
That's
punches.
a good old-fashioned twat punch.
That's a good old-fashioned
That's what
twat
that
punch.
is. That's what it is.
You get a little bell
The
here.
line. The line from 10 Rex is, you get tapped on the shoulder, you get tickled with a feather, maybe a little tap to the head, and then eventually you ignore it enough and the universe winds up, gives you a good old-fashioned twat punch to make you do what it's time for you to do.
I've gotten a few of those.
Yeah. And it happens too, like even like Dana and I had the catalyst for our pivot. I know this is okay. So we had we launched our business on June 26, 2022. FindUniquelyYou.com opened its doors. We have classes, we've got a community, we've got things going. By like October 1st, we had an open house where we had each of our students, each of our teachers teach like 15-minute things. It was a whole virtual day. It was very lovely or whatever. But Dana and I are sitting there. So we're sitting in every session and everyone's doing their little thing. And most of the stuff was like, there was like at one point where like we were doing Reiki up to the camera, and Dana's like trying to text me with one hand. She's like, "What the fuck are we doing here?" And I'm like, "I don't fucking know."
What? I'm like, this is how did this happen?
This wasn't what we wanted. We wanted like empowerment, career shifts, like go get them. We're here, for
and we're
you.
doing
And it was
fucking
like,
put your energy up to the screen. We're like, no.
You have to get the like extra premium version of Zoom for the energy to go through. Like,
The super extra
and you know what? It just turned into something that didn't feel good to us anymore. Like it no longer resonated with me. I was growing and expanding so much. So then we were like, all right, let's just let the school do its thing. We won't fan the flames anymore. It'll just run itself. Then we started Phenom Publishing. So that was like, what else can we do here that like expands our creativity, And then because of where we felt there, Dana wrote me a breakup letter.
I broke up letter.
Dana was breaking up with me. And,
ooh, ouch.
Oh,
okay.
yeah. Oh,
obviously you made up and got back together.
Just so you know, Mark, just for the record, and I think just for the record, it was not a breakup letter. It was a twat punch, is what it was.
It was like
it was a twat punch. It was like I can no longer do. This is not about us. So Mark, tell us.
No, we did a whole episode on the letter, but it was really like Dana had hit her wall with the whole thing, and I wasn't doing anything about it, right? Like so, Dana had to bust open the Kool-Aid us a new opportunity.
Dana had to do what Dana does. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, Mark. So Dana has to do what Dana does. That just landed, by the way. You're in Japan. How long are you in Japan now?
For the rest of my life? Oh, you mean like how long?
No, how long have you been there?
It's I know you want an easy answer, but this is my third tour of duty.
Yeah.
Okay, so
this tour of duty.
Yes. So this time I'm coming up on 5 years.
And how long have you been doing Zen Sammich?
Almost 4 years. 3.5 years. Yeah.
And and I'm not trying to interrogate you, but like, how is the growth? So tell me.
We're
talking to a lawyer here.
If you want to cross-examine me, fire away. Good luck.
Let the record show. Mark is
I will give you some.
Mud.
If you want advice on when you get cross-examined by someone, I will tell you what we tell people.
Well, please
I mean,
tell us.
If you want, but I don't want to interrupt your story.
About your growth.
Like my growth. We want cross-examination tips.
Yeah. Do it.
You just, I mean, it sounds simple and but the thing is, when you're in an emotional conversation, it's hard to do, but just just answer what you've been asked. So in other words, like, if somebody is cross-examining you, that means they're treating you as a hostile witness anyway. So if they've asked you, like, I don't know, can you recall the events of this date and this time? That's not an open-ended question. They're not asking you to regurgitate everything you think about it. If they say, can you recall the events of this date and this time? You say, yes, or no, somewhat. You answer as succinctly, and you answer the question that's being asked and give them nothing else. So anyway, it works in real life, not just in the courtroom. If somebody
100%.
is somebody's coming at you, you answer what is being asked, and then it really saves your butt, because when they try to say, well, you said this before, you're like, nope, I said this, and it was the answer to your question. Just keep it short and sweet, baby. That's how you do cross-examination.
That's good for me to know, because I tend to over communicate and give you like the weather and what was
Most people
happening that
do.
day, what I was feeling, and what I ate for breakfast. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. On the other side, at being an attorney who has cross-examined people, I'm relying on that. I'm relying on you to just regurgitate more than I asked for. And I'm not. When you cross-examine in a courtroom, actually, you're not asking a question you don't already know the answer to. I've already got the facts, and so I'm going to ask. So Dana, you were there, or Angela, you were there on that Thursday, correct? It's a yes or no question. You can lead. You hear these objections if you don't know how courtroom law
Leading
works.
the witness.
Yeah, leading the witness. You can on cross-examination. You can't lead the witness on direct. If you're my witness, I can't lead you down a path. I have to ask you open-ended questions. What happened on that day? And that's when you answer, because you're my witness. On cross-examination, I can lead you. And that's what happens when people interrogate you in life too. So anyway.
Do you do divorce law? Okay.
Oh boy.
Fuck no. And let me tell you this. When you become a lawyer, and I have two practice areas, basically criminal law and then securities law later on, which is both civil and criminal, the two broad areas. But you tell people you're a lawyer, and then they're like, well, let me tell you about this divorce case my cousin is going through. I'm like, please don't. Because that's
well, I get it.
You're asking a podiatrist a proctology question. I don't know about asses. I know about feet.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, no, I get that completely. And I do love my lawyer. My lawyer's amazing. Josh, what's up?
Great.
The way you talk about the cross-examination, that's how I handle my children. Like, I know that and I act like I usually already know the answer. And and they sing like birds. And I was like, how do you do that? I'm like, I didn't skip their age to get to mine. Like, that's how I do that.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I'm going to keep that in mind.
I have questions because I don't want to like run out of time before I get to my questions. I know it's your show,
please.
But
you know what? This is going Commando Zen Sammich style. Let's do it.
Sammich. Bring it in, Sammich.
You should have introduced me at the TEDx talk. I should have just like had it. Can I have a remote MC just for this one?
I would have riffed. I would have riffed for like 20 minutes. Sammich.
And you would have been like, and you would have botched the Japanese. It would have been amazing.
Oh my God.
The American trying to speak.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Okay. Either one of you can answer. I feel like this might be up Dana's alley here, but either one of you can answer. Please do. So things are going well. I don't know how to ask this question, first of all, without seeming like an asshole. And what I mean by that is, like, things are going pretty swell right now for me. And I'm feeling guilty about it. Okay. I'm feeling like, God, life is going good. It shouldn't. I don't deserve this or something. There's that. And then, like right now, I sound like an asshole. I'm like, yeah, my life's awesome, man. It's not. I mean, there's plenty of bumps in the road, and I have bad days just like anybody else, but life's going all right. So how do I not feel guilty about it? And how do I not self-sabotage it because I feel like I don't deserve it?
Oh, so I've got the total answer to all of this. I've written several books. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dana, of
Please, please,
course.
please.
She's like fucking chomping at the bit.
Oh
I
my
had to fuck her a little bit.
god!
There she goes. Wait, hold on. Let me undo the leash. Go ahead.
Oh my god! Oh my god! So it's really like a simple answer in theory, but it's challenging in action, in
Okay.
practice. So we had a conversation a couple weeks ago, just you and me, just talking chakras or whatever, and we were talking
Right.
about how our beliefs, like where they develop. And every time you start to feel guilty because you have good things in your life, that comes from a level of I'm not worthy of this, and
Mhm.
a belief, like whatever, you have to examine what your beliefs are. So you could sit back and be like, okay, am I fearful that if I have something good, I can lose it? Do I believe that I'm not worthy of having what I desire? Am I not good enough? Do I have a belief that I have to work super hard always to get what I want? And that if I just coast a little bit, I don't, like, I'm not, like, it's not okay. Like, I'm not worthy of that. Like, you have to
Mhm.
really just examine what your beliefs about yourself are. I believe somewhere you have a belief that you have to strive, and that just to be happy and okay, you're not worthy of that
Well,
for
okay.
whatever reasons.
Let me jump in on that. You had said, "Am I fearful I'm going to lose it?" And certainly there is an aspect of that, but some of that comes from like just my experience with, we're not going into Buddhism and all that stuff, but just my experience with impermanence. Nothing is permanent, and that's a double-edged sword. It's bad and it's good. It's good when you're suffering. So like if you're suffering,
Yeah.
like my mom passed away a couple of years ago through pancreatic cancer, and it was horrible. It was horrible to see her, and it was devastating. And but I did have the wherewithal. I had the consciousness that I know that my grieving will subside a little. I mean, I'll always grieve the loss of my mother, but and Angela, I mean, you losing a child, like that is beyond my ability to comprehend. So
Mm-hmm.
I can only imagine, and it doesn't come close to what I'm sure the reality is. But I would guess that the way you grieve over that, still, I'm sure you do, is more tolerable than the grief at the beginning. The grief at the beginning must have been, devastating. But my point is that things change, feelings change, everything changes. So the good news is when you're suffering, it won't last forever. Suffering will get less and more manageable. But the other side of that sword is that when good things, when things are rocking and rolling, soak it up, baby, enjoy it, because that ain't gonna last forever either. So my knowledge of that, I guess, is why I'm like, hey, which makes me very grateful. So the gratitude is sky high right now. I'm so grateful for every moment. My wife and I are in the car on the way to TEDx, and it was like the sunrise was coming up. We were near Hiroshima, and there was snow on the ground. The sunrise was coming up, and the Japanese landscape, it was just so beautiful. And I was like, oh my God, it's like the best moment of my life right now. And so the gratitude was sky high, but I'm also conscious of like, that sunrise doesn't last forever. The snow's going to melt. This moment's not going to last forever. So I enjoy it, but it's going away. Angela, please.
Can I jump in, Dean?
Yeah,
Please, or
yeah,
I
and then
won't
and then
stop.
I
Okay.
want to jump
I
in as
know,
well. I'm
I
gonna
know.
write it
You
down
got,
so I don't forget.
I know. Okay.
Bring a pen too.
So here's what I've had to grapple with, and it's a lot of like what happened in my book too. Like I always felt like I wasn't worthy of the wonderful things that I achieved in my
Mm-hmm.
life, and
Right.
achievement, children, family, house, all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But as I grow and as I evolve and as I move on, I know that when something comes to an end, it's because I have faith that whatever's next is even better than where I'm at. And sometimes you have to go through, like I'm going through a divorce right now. 2 years ago, I had everything that I wanted. I had my kids, I had my house, I had my family, like everything was intact, starting a business, like everything was like awesome. And now I'm going through a divorce, and it's not traumatic because I know what's on the other side of this is going to
Yeah.
be even better than what was my dream before.
Oh, I
So
like that.
I have learned to embrace and transmute the experiences and have faith because they're pushing me towards something that's better. I just want to briefly touch on the grief of Joshua. I've never felt anything like losing a child. And walking out of the hospital without my baby was the absolute worst day of my life.
I'm sure.
But Joshua has led me on a spiritual journey to be where I am today. So Joshua is a big part of my life still.
Mm.
He's a part of my children's life. They know their sibling. He's our angel brother, angel baby. And I don't miss him because he's here. And I've learned to appreciate everything that he's brought for me. We celebrate Joshua Day on December 3rd. It's like our thing. You know, Dana painted this beautiful painting behind me,
Right.
and there's purpose to everything that we experience. And yes, it subsides, but you transmute it into something, and you make it worth what it was. You learn from it what you can. You grow from what you can. And the harder the experiences, the even if like this divorce, I've been through 2 divorces now. This divorce is not killing me. This divorce is not tragic because I'm empowered, right? Dana's taught me to stand tall and know myself, and I'm all cleaned up and aligned and all that good stuff. So the experience
You look
itself
clean.
is, I look clean. I took a shower. Took a shower for you, baby. But yeah, so you have like this beautiful existence with your wife right now. And if it changes, it's only because it's changing for your greater good and it's going to be better. You just have to, that's the belief part, right? You're
Well, that
talking about.
I,
Yeah.
I she is the better from from the shit that where I got twat punched, several years ago. Like, and I had there was someone else I was going to marry, and it was a New Yorker. That was mistake number one.
Fucking New
And
Yorkers. You got to watch out for them, man. Fuck
and,
them.
but that situation, it ends with me like I'm on the floor next to a bottle of Jim Beam, like life, just rock bottom stuff. Like, man, I'm never gonna get married. I'm never gonna meet anyone again. All this stuff, and I don't dare compare it to what you went through with Joshua, but it was my rock bottom. Everybody gets their own version of rock bottom, right? And this was mine. And I just thought, like, and, I've never lost the zest. I've never been suicidal, not seriously or anything, but I did just lose my zest for life. I had just lost, like,
been there.
like, man, I just don't care to do anything. And it was a rough experience. Here's the thing. Like, if I've had people ask me, like, Mark, what do you regret in life? I can't even regret that traumatic thing. Because if I didn't go through that, I wouldn't be here in Japan with the person I love more than life itself. Like, I wouldn't get here if I hadn't have done that. So I can't regret even that trauma.
Yes.
May I add a piece to both of your brilliance? Maybe I'll throw a big pile of shit on top of your brilliance. You were saying how your understanding about like impermanence and like that scares you a little bit. Like, it works. Yeah. It's good when stuff sucks, but when stuff is beautiful, it's scary. But here's what I understand about energy and about how things develop and attract other things. So, when you were in the situation of your mother passing, as tragic as that is, if you would have chosen to wallow in that, and continue, because we're all going to grieve in our time, but continue to wallow in that, then yes, that situation would change, but there would be another situation or other situations that would align with that feeling of wallowing, and then you would continue that trajectory. So but the opposite of that is you're in your situation with your wife, you're on your way to the TED Talk and you're looking at the sunrise and everything is beautiful and life is wonderful. And you're like, oh my God, I should appreciate this, which is true, and have gratitude for this, and which is true, because this moment will never be here again. And Angela and I talk about this all the time. This is important. However, it doesn't mean that there's never going to be more good. Angela's talking about transmuting the shit into something good, which is really important. But you could also compound the good with more good by the gratitude you're talking about, by the joy, by the reveling in those moments. So there should never be fear that, oh my God, we're going to lose this. There should be excitement that there's going to be more of this by being excited in these moments.
and that has happened. That has been happening. Actually, I'm glad you said it that way, because that's what's going on with me.
Yeah.
And here's what it feels like now, though. So I've been compounding the goodness, the awesomeness, and it's like, I don't know if you've ever been skiing, but it's like when you're skiing and you start going so fast and you feel like, I'm going so fast I can't stop. Like I don't know how to fucking stop, unless I just
The momentum.
unless I just purposely crash here,
Yeah.
and so like, I'm kind of like going so fast. I'm on the black dime. I don't know all the metaphors. I mean, I've exhausted the metaphor, but like I'm on like the fast slope and I'm hauling ass because like good stuff's coming at me. Like, whoa, here's more good stuff. Here's a little hill. Yay, I'm doing a little jump. This is great stuff's happening, and like that I didn't even know I could do. And
Yep.
I'm like, okay, now it's feeling scary. It's feeling scary. I'm going so damn fast.
Yeah, but soak it in because
Yeah.
because what'll happen is you'll hit a little divot or like a little dip and it'll slow you down a little bit. And what I've learned, because I totally relate to what you're saying, that momentum, and I'm like, oh my God, good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. But what I've learned is when there is a lull, because there will be a lull, there has to be a lull. It's just the nature of how things work.
Yeah.
For me, I've learned to sit in the lull and I'm learning. I haven't learned it yet. Learning to appreciate the lull because I know that I'm going to speed up again at some point, because when we're doing this, it's when we're rising, when things are good, we're coming up like this. So right now, I mean, I know we're doing the ski down the mountain analogy, but you're rising. So as you're rising, you're like, yeah. And then you're like, wait, there's a plateau. Wait a minute. Oh my God, are things going to suck? Is there going to be a dip? No, man, you're just gathering the energy because you're rising again. We talked about the spiral staircase. You're coming around, but you're always raising. That's what you're doing. Little Buddhism 101 for you.
There you go. You know it. Angela, vegetable lasagna knows it.
Exactly.
Yes,
Oh my goodness. So Angela, what do you say?
I guess we're going to wrap this sucker up. Did you have any more questions for us? Or was that like,
that's it.
That was the one?
It was a complicated
Just that
one. Yeah.
It wasn't like, what's your favorite ice cream flavor,
No, he went right for it.
I
know. What is the meaning
of
life?
It's like,
I know where I am. If I'm on somebody else's podcast, it would be like, I don't know, do you like, chocolate ice cream or vanilla? But, I know where I am. So I'm like, let's do this. We're going commando, right? Let's go right to the heart. Let's start twat punching right out of the gate.
You missed it, man. I slipped my bra out when you were talking. It's
commando. Before we do our close, this episode is sponsored by Mark's amazing podcast, Zen Sammich. We have a little promo at the top and the bottom of this episode. Please check it out. Mark, I feel like your podcast is like our brother podcast. Like when Dana and I were in a sorority, we had a brother fraternity, the ZBTs. Right. Yeah. So I feel like you're like our brother podcast, like
nice.
love what you do. We're so aligned in how we're doing it. And I love that silky voice of yours. It's just something, it's just so comforting. It's so comforting. And I'm just, honestly, I want to speak for Dana and I, we're so grateful that you're in our lives.
Thank you so much. And likewise. And I love the analogy of a sister podcast. The silky voice, you can think that this is another example of, I needed the trauma to get where I am. I needed that bottle of Jim Beam.
Give me some gravel.
Give me this kind of like, it's like a raspy voice, and you're listening to Zen Sammich.
Can I ask you a question? This is a weird aside, but did you always like the sound of your voice?
No, nobody does. You're right. When the first time you hear it, I got used to it, but there's a reason why. I mean, I looked it up that because you never actually hear your voice the way it sounds to other people, because it's I can't explain the anatomy of it, but the ear bones in your head are not hearing the vibration of your voice the same way that everyone else is receiving it. So when we think we sound the way that we sound to ourselves, but we don't. We sound the way we're recorded. Right. And so when you hear yourself, you're like, it sounds foreign to you. Like, I don't sound like that. Yeah, you do. You sound like the way you're recorded. And so after a while, I got used to it. Plus, I did get compliments. I never felt good about my voice ever until I started podcasting. And I would get emails from people that would compliment me, that would say like, I love the sound of your voice, like really, it puts my wife to sleep I like my wife. She's like, well, you sound like late night DJ. And
Yeah,
you're listening
yeah.
to Zen Sammich, and she's like, I mean, she'll, she can't get to sleep. I'm like, well, put on a Zen Sammich episode, and like, in 20 seconds.
Well, I had my biggest climb of this existence so far has been my worthiness, and I would hate pictures of myself, and I would hate the sound of my voice if I heard it recording or whatever. But then Dana and I started doing this, and I honestly, like, I'll just sit here when I'm editing and I'll watch Dana and I, or listen to Dana and I, like on a walk or something. And I'm like, God, we're so smart. We're so funny. We're so charming. Look at us.
You are. You both.
Worthy. I love myself.
I'm not flirting because I live on the other side of the planet, and I love my wife more than myself. But you are both like hot. You both sound great. You both have
awesome,
wonderful
right?
personalities. This is I'm bathing in awesomeness.
Yeah, right. Okay, I think enough about that.
Okay.
So, we all see each other's D's. We're all good? We're all good? Okay.
I think we're good. I think we're ready for the sign-off wheel. Marcus,
Okay, so
where Dana does this, she's super excited long time. Is there anything
I love it. I love my wheel. Okay, so I just want to give you a little bit of a heads up, Mark, because clearly you don't watch our show to the end. So we have Later Alligator. Well, listen, you do 9-minute episodes. I'm like, Mark, I just binge watched or binge listened to all your episodes. Ours are like 40 minutes long. I get it, dude. It's cool. I get it. We're friends. We're good.
Okay. I'm not going to defend
All
myself.
right. So don't be a dildo.
I feel like I'm being cross-examined here. So yes.
Answers. Okay.
No. Baby.
Okay. So don't be a dildo. Dropped call. Smash that bell. Stay fresh, cheese bags. The award show speech, I want to thank, little baby Jesus. I want to thank, okay. DJ sign off. We're out. Slow motion goodbye. And we'll just drop call. Oh, I did drop call. Drop call. Angela just shuts it down. Nobody says goodbye. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to move over and spin it so you can see it. And wait. Oh, there it is. Stay fresh. You ready?
Stay fresh, cheese bags.
Stay fresh, cheese bags.
Stay fresh, cheese bags.
This episode is brought to you by Zen Sammich Podcast with our dear friend, Mark Reid.
So let me tell you about Zen Sammich. Zen Sammich is a podcast for the independent thinker and anyone who embraces life despite its absurdities. Former professor and attorney turned Japanese paper maker Mark Reid, that's me, inspires mindfulness, humor, and a down-to-earth 21st century Zen lifestyle. Join him, me, as he talks with creative, inspiring, and influential people like Dana Sardano and Angela DiMarco there, amongst others. And as he shares his own research, sometimes I do little solos, observing the socially constructed mess of reality, sharing travel stories, hadn't done that in a while, and exploring what it means to be alive in a modern world. So yeah, I did just read that off a script, but still, sounds interesting. I'd want to listen to that. You can find Zen Sammich on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you've got, anywhere you listen to podcasts. And it's easy to find. I don't really have any competitors. There's no like Zen Hoagie or Zen Sub Roll. There's just one Zen Sammich, baby. So just Google it, and there I am.